Hey everyone, welcome back to JavaScript Tutorial and Happy New Year. Today we've got an exciting tutorial for you as we dive into building a Vue 3 project. We'll be exploring the Vue.js, leveraging
Compositions API.
as well as styling our project with a fantastic Tailwind CSS. Whether you're new to Vue.js or a seasoned developer, this video is something for everyone. We'll be setting up how to install Node.js on your machines, how to install Vue on your machines, and how to also integrate Tailwind CSS into your project. But before we get started with the code, if you're new here, ensure you click on the subscribe button, turn on your bell notification for updated or new tutorial videos. All right, let's get started. Before we get started, I already have an outline to help us start and as well complete this project. So the first thing here is to ensure that we have Node.js installed on our machine. So make sure you have Node.js installed on your machine. I'm going to be leaving the link below on how to install Node.js. Now installing Node.js because the Vue CLI depends on it. Like I said earlier, it's a Vue 3 project and having Node installed is a necessity. So quickly, let's go over the Node.js documentation. So all you have to do is go to any browser of your choice and type in Node.js. I already have mine opened up here, and this is what the page looks like. But since we're going to be using our command prompt, I don't want us to download through this guide. So we could come here, learn, and how to download Node.js. This is the one downloading via an APK file, and this is downloading through our CLI. So other package managers for Mac OS. So I'm going to click on this and see different package managers that you can download for whatever system you're using. So I am using Mac OS. You have for Windows, you have for, but let's just go for Mac OS since that's what I use. You can download the package with Bash. And an alternative way of downloading it, which I assume or which I feel like it's going to be easier to use, is using Homebrew. So the only issue here is you have to have Homebrew installed on your computer first before you can install Node using Homebrew. So I already have the website open here. All you have to just do is do this and it will bring you directly to this place. So follow through the commands and you have Homebrew downloaded on your computer, right? Once you are done with that, the next thing is to run this command, Vue install Node. That's all you have to do to install Node on your computer. So the next thing we're going to be doing, okay, yeah, I already have Node on my computer. I can show you. So for me to check the version of Node that I have on my computer already is just to type this command, and I have version 18.12.0 installed on my computer. So the next thing we want to do from this outline is installing the Vue CLI on my system. So you have to open your terminal. I already have my terminal open, and I'm sure you already have your terminal opened as well. So all we have to do is do npm install. Okay, let's not do that. Let's go to the official page for Vue, right? I already have that here. Go to their web page. Or I typed in Vue 3 and navigated through, and I was brought here. Get started. You can do a quick start. Just go through the documentations and see how easy it is to follow the steps. But I would do it so that it will be easier for us to move fast and understand really well. So back to my command line, I already have Node Vue installed on my system as well. But you could go with this command npm install g at vue /CLI and run this command. But because I already have Vue installed on my system, I'm not going to go ahead with this. So to check the Vue installed on my computer, all I have to do is use Vue version. And yeah, I have Vue 5.0 installed on my computer, right? So the next thing is to create a new Vue project. We have to create a new Vue project. So I'm going to navigate to where I want my project to be saved in, where I want the new project I'm creating to be saved in. So I could cd into, I don't know where I am right now, but let's see. Okay, so I could cd into my, where could I go to? Document. I'm already in my document, right? And I probably want, let's see what's even in here. Okay, I have a couple of themes. So I could cd into my personal learning projects. Yeah, I could go into that. I want this project, this new Vue project that I'm working on to be saved inside of this personal learning project, right? So we need to come up with a name that we want to name this. Since it's a form and we want to know how to use our forms, how to validate our forms, and all of that. I could name it. What do you think we should call this project? I don't know, form tutorial. Yeah, I think we should just give it form tutorial. So to create a Vue project, we have to use this command to create it. So I have Vue create. I don't know if this is big enough. I think I should increase it a bit, right? Come on. Yikes. I think this is fair. So we have Vue create form tutorial. Form tutorial. Type into it. Invalid project name. Why am I getting that? And that's because I'm using capital letter of my project name. I'm so used to camel casing. So I have Vue create form tutorial. I'll have to wait. Yeah. So you have to pick a preset. I already have my preset already because I have a couple of projects that I'm using Vue for. So you could pick different ones, but I'm going to go with my preset. So I have Vue using TypeScript, router, ESLint, and everything. So I'm going to pick that while I wait for it to download. Still waiting for this to download. I think I'm just going to have to press it a bit while it's done. I think I have a slow network. Okay, it is done installing, and the next thing I want to do is open the project on my preferred code editor. You can use any code editor of your choice, but I'm using the VS Code. So, but I want to go into the project that I just created. So I'm going to cd into what is it called? What's the project name again? That's from tutorial. And then I would open my code here. So it's going to open VS Code for me, right? You will see various folders and files. The SRC folder is where most of our application code will reside. Feel free to explore the files, but for now, let's move to the next step, which is run our Vue.js, our Vue project. To see your Vue app in action, run the following command. So I have npm run serve. So this would help us run our code. No issues found. All we have to do is copy this link, the one that has local on it, and open it, copy and paste it into any browser of your choice. I use Google Chrome. So I'm going to copy this guy and open it in my Google Chrome, right? Here, this way. Congratulations, you have successfully created and run your Vue 3 projects using CLI. So this is the default styles and what it looks like to have your Vue 3 projects running. Right? So the next step is to install Tailwind in our Vue 3 project. Tailwind is a CSS framework that helps make our styling easier, fast, and smooth. And I mean, for me, it makes it shorter. So all we have to do is navigate into or go check the Tailwind documentation out. So I have Tailwind here. This is what the website looks like. My internet is quite slow. Click on get started. And then you have all this. All you need to do is follow these steps accordingly. But we're going to do this together since it's a new project and I need Tailwind installed in the project. So the first thing we'd want to do is following this, right? Install Tailwind via npm and create your tailwind.config file. That's quite easy. So where is my, come right here. Right here. And I have to stop this from running, or we could open another terminal so that we don't have to stop the app from running. I just did Command T to create a new tab for me. So the first command that I'll be running here would be, where would that be? That's npm install. Just copy it. You can even copy both, but let's do it one after the other. Paste it right here and run it. Now this is loading, we're going to take the second one. We're following the documentation so that it doesn't seem as if I'm taking all this from somewhere. It's in the documentation. This is the Tailwind CSS. After that is done, we're going to run the next command. Okay, so that's done. The next thing would be add the path to all of your template files in your tailwind.config.js. So this command line here will help us create a configuration file and open it in our text default editor. So it created this file tailwind.config.js file for us, which is here. And I already have all this plugin that it said we should add to our path has already been included here. So the next thing we would do is add the Tailwind directive to your CSS. So this just means that we should create a new CSS file. For example, you could name it tailwind.css or main.css and import tailwind CSS in it. Basically, that's what it means, right? So let's go to our directory, and I would prefer that we save it into our assets. So I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to name it, what can I name it? CSS, yeah, CSS. And inside here, I'm going to create a file, which I'm going to be saving as tailwind.css. Or you could name it main.css. That's all. And come over to the documentation and copy this guy here. That's all. I hope you're following. We're going to copy that here. So this file that we just created is an entry point for our CSS. So the next thing we want to do is import Tailwind CSS in our main JavaScript file. Import it in our main JavaScript file. So we have to open main JavaScript file and import the Tailwind CSS file in it. If you can remember earlier, my preset when I started this project was TypeScript. So I'm going to go into my main.ts here. Let's go into my main.ts and import tailwind.css that I just created. So I have import is this asset slash css that I created the folder and tailwind.css. That's all. So the next step is to add script to our package.json. So this is our package.json file. I hope you're following through. Package.json file. We need to add, I think it's written here. Oh, I think they skipped that part, but it is very necessary that all these are added to our package file. So we have to, oh, they already added. Oh, So the next thing is to check our package.json file and to see that we have our save. Okay, viewed. So everything looks good here. We're good to go, right? We're good to go. But there's something here that doesn't that I like to do this whenever so that I have a cleaner and a smoother code. So I'm going to do const app equals this guy here. There might be other things I want to add, and I'm going to initialize this using app.use app.use here and app.use. I'm using ESLint prettier, so if I don't have my semicolon, I'm going to have a problem with that. So this just makes it easier and like short and easy for you to pick very fast. So the next thing is we already have this opened up here, and we have to start with the UI, which is building our forms and buttons and whatever needs to be built. So like I said, everything we need is inside the SRC, and I have the view. I don't need this guy. I don't think I need. We can leave it. I think we should just leave it. Just have to refactor some things. Hello world is no longer needed. I'm going to delete this. Yeah, delete it. Remove this with the logo from the components as well. Yeah, that is that. Let me see what I have. So I have this. So the next thing we have to do is start with our HTML and CSS. But I'm going to change these names. I think from the previous design, I have this I'm going to just change the names to fit into what we are going to be doing today. So the first thing we want to do is designing the web application before we move to the functionalities. From the previous UI that I showed you, which I'm going to display on the screen now, we had the login, we have the registration, and then we have the profile. So let's come here and change all of this. I'm going to rename this to rename. This will be login review. Yeah. And I've also changed the home.view to registration the view. Oops, I think I made a mistake with the naming. I'm going to rename that. Yeah, registration the view. And I also have the last one, which I would be naming profile the view. Right, so I have the login, the profile, and the registration. So for the login page, I'm just going to be using so for the login page, all I have to do is take this out and review like this and give me like a default. So I have the template, I have my script, and I also have my styling. But there's a much easier way to do it. I could do VBase, and it gives me a TypeScript setup, right? You pick whatever. This error I'm getting is because I'm using Prettier, so all my code has to be as neat as possible. And I need a setup here. So let's quickly do some things. Excuse me. So I'm going to import define component from Vue, and I'm going to export fold define component. So I need to give this view page a name, which I'm going to save as login view, right? And then I could connect other components. The component just means that you want to reuse, you want to be able to reuse your code in different view page, right? That's all. Prettier issue, double. So the next thing we'll do is to go onto the registration page as well and do the same thing. Change this to registration view, registration. Yeah, add component. The profile doesn't have anything in it, so I have VBase, TypeScript. It's about that. The next thing we want to do is go to our router. So router is where we have our path, where all the paths are routing to different parts of our project. I already deleted this guy here. That's no longer needed. So I'm going to be changing the route of each of these guys. All right. So this becomes registration. I want the first page that I'll be routing to called registration. The component will be, I saved it as registration. You can remember the name I gave it was registration view. I check it here, registration view. So I'm exporting this into my router, right? Put this, put it here, perfect. Now we have about the login. The route name will be login as well. I'm going to be importing login.view. I have one last one, copy and paste it, guys, so I'll work faster. And I have profile as well here. Just have to change this since it was copy and paste. That's profile, the view. Can't find, oh, that's because I didn't give profile a name. So we have to import define component and also export default define. Here, this. So I have the name. So I'm going to be calling the profile view. That's it. That's that. Profile, excuse me. Profile. I'm sure the router issue will have been fixed here. So I can import this. So the next thing we're going to do is designing these guys. So the first view page we want to design will be the registration page. So let's proceed with the styling. So I have the registration page and I want to give it a class of name. Since we're using Tailwind, W stands for width. So I want to give it a width of 40% and margin auto. That's M auto. Let's even see what this looks like. Oh, okay, my bad. So we're going to go to the app.vue to make changes up there. We have the login, then this would be the, I think, registration, and we're gonna copy this as well, and I'll call this profile. Link to registration. So you want to route to registration. And then this would route to the profile. Check this out. We have this, right? We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. So I know if you can see, this route is changing to slash registration to slash profile. So that's what router does for us. And this is that. So we're going to start with the registration page. So I have a form like I showed before, and I have buttons for cancel and send. So I'm going to using the form tag, and I have two divs in between the form. The first div is the one that contains my labels and my input, and the other div is going to be the one for the buttons. So I have here my form tag, right? In between there, I have a div. I'm going to copy this as well and replicate it here. So I have divs. So this is going to be for the inputs and labels, and this would be for my buttons. My ESLint has a way of making so much noise, so buttons. Let's do this quick fix, right? So the first thing we want to do is having our layout, right? The heading, which I'm going to come in here, create a div as well. Now H2 tag in between, that's for my heading. H2 tag, personal information. Now to have a p tag. Use the permanent address. Oops, address. Where you can receive mails. All these are not just the most important part is understanding the functionalities of the form and how to use Vue with forms and everything. So the next one I'm going to have is I'm going to have another div here. This is going to be the div that carries the input, each input, and a label. First name. First name. I'm also going to have a div for the input. Right. Contains my input. So let's see what this even looks like first. Yeah. This is what I have. Use a permanent address where you can receive emails and the like. So I have the first name, right? Here I have type, text, name, first name. There's so much about that. I'm still going to go back to the style. I just want us to see the raw form of everything and then we style it once we are done. I could replicate this and change it to okay, let's just copy and paste this multiple times like this, right? We're going to replicate it. We have this. So I'm going to change this to be the last name. And this would be the email address. So it's going to be type email, right? And last name will also remain as type text. There we have it. So let's go ahead with the styling using Tailwind, right? Styling using Tailwind. Let's just restart, babe. Let's start with this guy. So I want to have, okay, let's give it a border, oh sorry, class. We have border bottom. And border bottom, what color should we give it? Let's just try any color. Gray 900. Let's try gray 900. We have padding bottom of 12. It's quite simple to go across Tailwind. Once you read their documentation, it becomes so easy. So for the text, which is the header, I want to give it a text class, text space, font semi-bold, leading, that's like the spacing in between, the line spacing of 7, and text color of gray. Yeah. Text color of gray. Yeah. That would do gray 900 as well. Let's see what that looks like. I think it already reloaded. Okay. Oh yeah, I think there was a difference. Then for the p tag, let's quickly style that as well so that we don't have too much long video. I've done this outside of this tutorial, but I wanted us to get familiar with the Tailwind styling. So I have margin top of 1, and I have text should be small, that's SM, leading that space between 6. 6. Space between the line, that's line height 6, student 6. I would also have text grade, which is 600. Yeah, let's try 600. Like I have this thing that it automatically reloads instead of me having to reload. So, but just pay attention to the details and changes that are being made. Then we can come over here to style the input and the label. So I have class equals, what's wrong with you? Oh, my bad. So margin bottom 7, 10. We have grid. So grid, you can check up what the grid does. So I have grid equals 1, a gap between x 6. I think that would do. Red gap y 8. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, nothing changed. Oh, my bad. That's the div with this guy. Let's keep going. Call span 3. The Tailwind documentation is as straightforward as possible. So label, I think we should have for first name, and then we have a class where we give it a block. We have text to be small, font size should be medium, line height should be about 6, text gray 600, right? Or gray 900, I think 900. Nothing changed still. Okay. Be good. Be good. So why is it not changing? So I think I missed 2 steps during when we're trying to configure our Tailwind into our project, and I think the first one is in our tailwind.config.js. I didn't add a prefix. I didn't add, where are you? Yeah, I didn't add something into the Tailwind config.js file. So we're going to copy and paste that here, right? That's it. And I think the next one would be that, excuse me, there's a CSS file missing here at the root of this project, which is a postcss.config.js file. So this file, what this file does is help us to config PostCSS to use Tailwind CSS and auto prefixer plugin. So we're going to create postcss.config.js. .config. Why is this happening? And then I'm going to copy quickly.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I already copied and pasted this thing. this is one of the things that we're missing in here. And we want to check the design. Did it change? No. Also, one important step that I missed is in the Tailwind.css. Instead of having this, I'm going to replace it with this guy. And if we go back to our yeah, the changes have been made in our browser. Because I was wondering why those things were not being made. And that's because we missed certain step during installation. And I'm going to put it out step by step so that you don't miss it as well. So let's proceed with our, this is where I stopped. So for the div, I'm going to do the same thing. It's just copy and paste the same thing that's already here, which is this guy. For the input, let's design the input form. I already said it's of type text. I think I want to give it a margin bottom of 2. So let's style the input. I have class. Give it a display block. Width should be full. Rounded, that's the border. Medium. This is border radius. Rounded means border radius. Then border 0. Padding up top and bottom should be 1.5. Text gray 900. Shadow, last box shadow should be medium or small. We have ring 1, ring set. So we have that. So what I'm just going to do is copy and paste this guy since it's the replication of everything that we're doing. I can just do this. Put that here, right? I guess. Do the same thing for this guy. And copy the class and yeah, put it here as well as here. I'm just gonna re-edit them. Last name, then this email address. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so we have this, but I mean it's expanding all across this, so I just have to come here and I think I want to give it a width of 40% and margin auto. Let's see that. Oops, that didn't suffice. Oh, okay, 40%. Since I'm not using the Tailwind documentation of using full, I have to put this in a square bracket to make it 40%. Yeah, so they look more close together. There's still some styling that needs to be done, but I just want you to get familiar with the Tailwind documentation. But we have to stop here because I have to copy and paste it so that we can move on to the proper JavaScript explanation of using the Vue model and your composition API to help with your form input and everything. So I'm just going to copy and paste this from the previous code that I showed you so that we don't waste so much time on styling. So you can go over your Tailwind documentation and copy and follow through the process. And I'm going to leave the link below in my GitHub account. So here we have it. This is what it looks like. This is what the registration page looks like. And I think I'm even doing it wrongly. I think this is the okay, yeah. So let's go to my router and ensure that this would be login, and this would be registration. Yeah. So they were all on the same page. Yeah. Okay. So we're good. So the next thing we want to do is start with collecting data from the user and sending them to a backend, or we save them in our storage. But today we don't have a backend, so we're going to be using our storage to keep this information to be viewed on our profile. Next, let us talk about how we can track whatever a user types into this input field using two-way data binding, right? So the easiest way to track what a user types into an input field, much like this one here, or a select from a drop-down box, is to use what is known as the Vue model. And Vue model is just another Vue directory, and it allows us to sync a form field like this with some component data in a way that gives us something known as two-way data binding. And we're going to talk about what that means later on. But for now, let's take a look at how this works. So I'm going to add to the sign up form component. I want to create a bit of data so that I can store in it what the user types in it. So first of all, we're going to use setup. So I'm going to add up to our registration component, and I want to create a function setup so that I can store what a user types in here. So setup function, which will return an object, So I'm going to create a variable named const email. Let us create a variable to store whatever the user types, but I'm going to make this variable into a reactive property. The vbind model directive bind the input field to a reactive property, enabling two-way data binding, meaning any changes made in the input field automatically updates and changes. So I have const red form, making it reactive. I want it to take type of any data type. It's a function, and I'm going to return first name as an object, and last name would also be an object, last name. Also, then we have the email, empty as well. Right? So whatever is typed into this input field will be saved into this registration form. So this is where the Vue model comes in, the binding comes in. So I'm going to use Vue model to attach each of these to the input, right? But first I have to return the registration form so as to use it in my template. So I have return reg form. If I don't return it, it would not work. So I come here inside of the input and let me put it above here. Vue model is the binding equals reg form. It's a property of first name, right? I can't remember what I said. Okay, first name. And then I'm going to also bind this other one here for the last name. So Vue model reg form is also a property of last name. Vue model here as well. Reg form dot email is a prettier product. So I've already binded this input field to this guy here. All right. So whatever I type inside of my input field would automatically reflect here. But let's put this input. So let me have a p tag just to show you what will be happening here. We're going to create a variable that whatever the user types in is stored in it. So, and I'm going to make it a reactive property. So I have const reg form equals I'm going to make it reactive, and I want it to take any data type. It's going to be, so we have first name, and then it's a string, last name, and I have email. So what reactive does is whatever the user types in the input field, this get updated with the value that they type in. So if they type in A or B, this would update to keep track of the value with the value A. So I want to kind of sync these two together. And as the type, it updates. So ABC, and then comes ABC there. So every time they type in a new key, it'll be updated. The best way and easy way to do this is using the directive Vue model. All I have to do is come to the input and put Vue-model and set it to reg form dot last name. In our case, it's reg form dot last name. I also have this. You can name it whatever you want. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to change this to email, and this to first, this is last name, and this will be first name. For the email, I want it to be a required field. Right. Why I'm getting this error is when you're using composition API, you need to return this for it to be displayed in the template. You understand? So, yeah. So we're going to track in these three fields. I will keep storing these values, and then later on when we go to submit the form, we have this value readily available in this data property, which is nice. So let's now do something with this, because at the minute, although we're tracking them over here and nothing is happening without doing anything. So let's output them at the bottom to see that we are tracking them. So underneath this email, I'm going to have a paragraph tag. Right? And then we do reg would be the reg form property that we have. Reg form. I'll give it up. Let me type a class of like font gold. So let's see what we have. You can see we have, because we already initialized this to be an empty string here. So when we type something here, maybe Tola, pay attention, Tolani, last name Fauzia, or my email address is Iwa. It's once I refresh it, it's gone. And they're all updating real time. So we can see that we have these three properties tracking these two fields, and that was really simple. And all we had to do was use the vmodel directive and say what property we want to store this value in. That simple. So that's how vmodel directive works. But what does that term two-way binding mean that I mentioned earlier? Well, it means that the value are bound two ways between the template input here and the component data itself. So if the value updates from input by the user, we bind that update to the component data. So the component data updates, that would be one-way data binding from the input to the component data. But we also bind it the other way. So if I update the value from our component inside the method here, it would also update what we see inside the input field. And anywhere else in the template, we output it like down here. So we bind data both ways. That is called two-way data binding. From the input, to the data properties, and then to the data properties. So this is what the vmodel does for us behind the scenes. It binds the data in both directions. Let me just demo this. I'm going to start this off with JS with Tola. You will see that it started up with JS with Tola, and that's because it's bound from here to here, as well as from here to here. So we're using vmodel an awful lot as we go through the rest of the course, as we work with forms in numerous different projects. All right, so we've seen how we can use vmodel to track what a user types instead into different input field and restore those into this data property. But we can use vmodel with other form field as well, not just input. And one of those form field is select drop down. That's a select box. So let's give this another twist. I already have this. So let me set the values of each of these ones. So I have value equals Nigeria, value Canada, and value would be United States. Right? Okay. So if we take a look at this, we have a user has three options: Nigeria, Canada, and United States. And I might want to track what option a user select. So I'm going to create another object here called row. Country. It's going to be a blank string. Then I'm going to apply vModel to the select field itself. So vModel equals country. And now whatever a user select, the value of that option will be assigned to this right here. So if I come back here and do this and I select a country, United States, you can see United States here. If I come back here, pick Canada, I can see Canada being updated with the value of whatever has been selected. And then Nigeria. But first it begins with the empty strings, right? So if you want there to be a default option, you can apply a value here to be Nigeria. Right? So, I mean, all right then. We've already seen how to use vModel with text inputs like this, or user types into a field, and we've seen how to use it with select dropdown. Now let us see how it can be used with checkboxes, right? There are two different ways you can use vModel with checkboxes, and I'm going to show you both ways. We'll start off with two examples. But first, let's create a div. I already copied and pasted this here. This is every regular terms and condition that you see on the internet. So I have agree to this text and condition. I already have the type of checkbox, and I want to make it required, right? So let's track when a user clicks on this and unclicks it. The way we can do that is attaching a vModel to this input here. So I have vModel equals to any type of data property. So I have red form dot terms, right? But remember that I've not initialized here, so I have terms. It will be a Boolean value. But I could set this to be false to begin with, right? Okay, I have an error. Okay, that's my prettier causing an issue. So it's been preset to false. So when I put this, temps becomes true here. But I click it again, temps becomes false. Becomes true. So quite easy to overcome. So if you want it checked by default, you can change the initial value here from false to true. So it's checked by default. So let's change this back to false. So this is the first way you can work with checkboxes, by using one single checkbox with a vModel, and then that will be either true or false, depending on whether it is checked or not. So the second way to work with checkboxes is by using an array of values and multiple different boxes that belongs together. So let's do an example. just going to copy and paste this guy, or let me just create another input here. Right? So I have type checkbox. And give it a class of block rounded. This example is just for explanation. So that's the first way we can work with checkboxes by using one single checkbox with the Vue model, and that will be either true or false, dependent on whether it is checked or not checked. So now the second way to work with checkboxes is by using an array of values and multiple different checkboxes that belong together. So let me quickly paste this down here. And I have this just for example, and I have different names: JavaScript Tola, Talani, and Giwa. I'm going to remove all required field from here because you don't require them to check it. Do I remove this? So this is not required since it's not a term and condition. Right? So I'm gonna have the models equals to let me have a property called names here. It's going to be an empty array, and we're going to find out why soon. So I'm going to give all these values. Oh, okay, I haven't changed this. This is what copy and paste can do to you. So I have names, names, and names. So the Vue model are all named the same because they belong to the same type of data, and this will become clear in a second. And now the label for this is JavaScript Tola, this is Tolani, and then this is Giwa. So what happens here? Well, they're all using Vue model names, and that is an array. So I want to give the user the opportunity to click as many of this as they want and uncheck as many as they want. And what I'd like to do is to make it so that once they check, these values, JS Utola, Giwar, would end up inside of this array. Now the way we'll do that is by assigning a value to each one of these checkboxes. So I could come here and do value equals JS with dollar, and the value for this will be Talani, and this will be value equals Giwa. Right? So would this give us a Boolean value? I don't think so. So when we use multiple input fields that are of type checkbox and they all have the same Vue module and data property, then instead we use an array. And then whichever one of this is checked, the value of those would go into the array. So if we check this, then the array will contain Tolani, or the array will contain Giwa, depending on what's we checked. So those are the two different ways we can work with check boxes. So let's look at this. Tola, Tolani, Giwa. Depending on each one I click. Quite easy, right? Perfect. So that's how to use the array to append things that is being checked. So those are the two different ways we can use or work with the checkboxes. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this right here because you're not needed for this form. I just wanted to show you that we can do that. I might use it later something. So I'm going to take this out as well. So, which is agree and condition.